So welcome to another exciting episode of Rigby's Campfire podcast. We're here at SCI in Nashville 2025. Sat here with Julius Fortuna. Very excited to hear about what you've got to say. Watched some of your videos last night, which were very exciting. And if I may say so, someone who has done a great deal of hunting around the world and particularly in Africa.
Thank you. Very, very excited to be here, Marc. It's a privilege to be at Rigby's booth, and I met you basically in 2014 and been thinking about this booth and opportunity to get a Rigby rifle, certainly a double, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
No, bless you. Well, the joke on the booth is that a lot of people coming along with it being our 250th year in 2025, and they say, 2013, 2014, you did the first show. You were pre-pubescent. I think I looked so young back then. I was 25 years old. I think I was just about shaving. A few grey hairs now, and a little thick around the middle, but yeah, no, it's good to have you. Good to have you here. Tell us about the show. So let's start there. So tell us about Safari Club this year. There seems to be a real vibe, I think, compared to previous years. It seems to be really building SCI. A lot of excited people here.
Yeah, no, I think it's probably one of the best shows, and I've been a part of Safari Club. Literally, I met Mac when I was 22 years old in Tucson, Arizona. I came into my taxidermist studio where I had a big mule deer, and he shook my hand, looked me in the eye, and he said, I want you to tell me how you got that big buck. And so literally I've been an SCI member. I've been a board member for the last 15 years in the Las Vegas chapter of SCI, and just love the organization, love the hunting conservation side of this business. And I know you are too. That's a big part of Rigby. And to me, it's also one of the things that separate you. So many other groups that are of the same prestige, maybe they don't have that conservation side. That's why I love the podcast, Campfire, and what you're doing.
No, thank you so much. Well, the Campfire idea came about because it's, you've done far more safaris than I can probably ever hope to do. But sitting around a fire, beer in hand, a gin and tonic, and talking, it's amazing how those conversations, flow. And as you say, with the conservation message, that's something that's very dear to our hearts with Rigby's. A lot of our famous customers, Jim Corbett and Dennis Finch-Hatton, these guys, they really spearheaded modern conservation as we know it now.
Yeah, they do. And campfires to me is it's a kaleidoscope of life. I literally sit at a campfire. I was sitting with Buzz, and I know you were last year during COVID on an elephant hunt, sitting around that campfire, and to me, it's like a kaleidoscope. I look at so many of my life's highlights and moments besides family and my kids. Those best highlights come around a campfire.
Yeah.
The discussions that come around a campfire, the friendships that are born around a campfire. So the name is very appropriate.
No, thank you. No, and I often think back, I was talking to someone earlier about, I don't know if I've talked about this before on the podcast, but the gun I've always wanted to make is something called the Origins of Hunting. And it would be probably a 600, something big with a big canvas. And what I wanted to do is find not all, but some of the original cave paintings from Africa and engrave those images on the gun. And there's something about someone 5,000, 10,000 years ago, putting his art onto the wall of a cave or a stone or rock, wherever he was. And in the future, his art then being on this, what is essentially a futuristic hunting weapon. But when I think about that, you think about those guys would have done the same thing, sit around a campfire, making tools, making hunting weapons, whatever it may be, sharing stories, sharing hunting lies. I think that still happens around many a campfire. So it's something that's very deep within us. It's very primordial sort of part of being a human.
And it shows. That whole process, I think, is built into the firearms, built into your messaging, and I think that's what's attracting the people. I remember the cuffling story with Jacob. Campfire, and I had a very similar experience. His was first year you were there in 13. Mine was 2014 with you, and you may not remember it, but I remember coming to the booth, and I was like him. I really couldn't even afford the cufflinks, and I remember how welcome you made me feel, and I was talking about going on safari with, at that point, either Marc Sullivan or Buzz. I was working with the two of them, and you just made me feel welcomed. And here was the new CEO of a company, and I said that this company is going places, because of course the California thing came in and there's several problems.
Yeah.
But I watched that resolve, and I watched you take leadership, and I have to say I give you 100% credit. You've done a wonderful job.
No, that's really, really kind. And I always say it's been a massive team effort. And I was saying to somebody this morning, they say, you're the CEO of the company and well done, and lots of pats on the back. But the truth is, I suppose I'm just a big kid pretending to be a CEO, if I'm honest with myself, because I get to go and make Rigby's and go hunting and talk to amazing people like you, and I get paid to do it. So it's, yeah, pretty cool.
Tell me about your CB story, because I think it comes across that you truly, this is a family. Jerome, his love for you and the team, it's obvious. To me, I read people for a living, and it's very obvious. Tell me about the CB19 story and how the Rigby family came together, because I think that's a perfect tribute to what you've done and what you've accomplished.
That's kind. Well, I suppose Rigby's both the people at the company and around the world, and we always say that Rigby's is all about people. You take the people out and you've got nothing. It's something of a, I don't want to use the word cult, tribe I think is the right, the word family is often overused in business, but the word tribe, it is a tribe and people feel part of it. I think that's why people want to come and buy a pair of cufflinks or a hat or a shikari. And there's a real brotherhood of guys and girls in London who believe in the brand. So when that whole COVID thing, which that seems like a totally different time now when we think back of it, but in the run up to it, we'd seen, I think it was France and maybe Austria and Italy sort of shut down, and I thought, this is coming our way. So I sat down with my team and we were debating, because a lot of them were from overseas, and I said, look, you guys can all go back home, or I've got a crazy idea. I said, boss, what's the crazy idea? I said, well, we could all just live here at the factory and continue making guns, because we didn't know, what's going to happen with cash flow. We didn't have a furlough scheme from the government. Like, no one knew anything. And now I think COVID is perhaps not quite as scary as it was back then, but at the beginning it was like, whoa, what is this then? What's happening, the economy? So there was zero hesitation. All of them were like, yep, we're in. So much so, I had to send, and they have not forgiven me to this day, and they know who they are if they're watching, and I'm so sorry, people who went home and worked from home because we didn't have enough space in the building. And, we had about 10 days where we organized, actually brought in my washer dryer from home. I brought my sofa from home. I was actually moving house at the time. I had a chest freezer filled with game meat and a cow, which actually Simon, who's filming in the background here, we had this beef syndicate thing going in Scotland. So I had all this beef in there. We got a shower delivered, the kind of thing that builders use on building sites, like this sort of plastic porta shower thing. It was pretty basic, but it was a shower. We had a load of gym equipment. We moved in, we locked the door, and that was it. Oh, we had 2 or 3 kegs of beer. That was important. And the barbecue, the bright.
And no gin and tonic?
We had such gin and tonic, which interestingly, we got more and more stuff because, so we got in there, and beforehand I'd phoned the shareholders in Germany, and I'd said, look, we want to do something, but I really need your blessing because this is kind of like outside the book.
Yeah.
And they were shocked. So Michael, I think, was really shocked. He was very moved, is the feeling I got, that for how much his people cared, and we wanted to keep the party going. So we locked the door, and we lived there for 8 weeks. Didn't leave, didn't see our families. People started hearing about it, and there was that sort of British keep calm and carry on spirit. So people were sending us bottles of gin, bottles of whiskey, care packages, Red Cross care packages. Jamie, who is my protege at Rigby's and one of our main guys, he was driving in every 3 days to deliver food. I can't make guns, so the guys at the factory know this. I unfortunately am born with 2 left hands. So you give me a file, I'm going to screw it up. I can design all of those things. I cannot build those guns with my hands. My guys are amazing. So I decided if I wasn't able to build the guns with the guys, I'm going to be the camp cook. And I ran the whole building like it was a sort of 18th century warship. So, what I decided was that you can do what you want for breakfast, but everyone has to eat together for lunch and dinner, and I'll cook every day for 2 months.
Fantastic.
And it meant that everyone had to come together. We never fell out once. We left.
Literally, no fallouts the whole time.
Zero
Side by
fallout.
side.
Side by side, living in this place. We were ready to go after 2 months, but there were no fallouts. I would say everyone was more closely bonded, and some of the best ideas we ever had came out from those meetings where we'd again, Simon behind the camera, who sort of got a wonderful tradition going in our family. When we hunt together and you've got a lot of people round as guests around the dinner table, we give everyone a chance around that table to talk about their day, because there's people like me who can talk all day long and talk your ears off, and there's other people who are perhaps a little more shy. So we would, we go around the table and everyone at Rigby's would have a chance to talk about their day and what they thought, and we started asking more and more ridiculous questions, and everyone had to answer. And you put a bunch of guys together. I think by the end of it, I mean, essentially it turned into a bachelor party with some gun making, is how I describe it. And I've got pictures which are absolutely not to get out off this phone, I'm sure, of people making guns in their underpants, wearing flip-flops. I mean, it's like any normality sort of went out the window. But this wonderful brotherhood came together, and the customers really got behind it, and we left with a huge amount of orders. People just wanted to buy guns to support this thing. So yeah, in a nutshell, very big nutshell, that's what happens. No, thank you so much.
I mean, honestly, for CEOs, I deal with CEOs in healthcare all the time for 25 years. They would never spend 3 months with their team.
And I slept on the floor of my office on a blow-up mattress. That's true story. Slept on the floor of my office on a blow-up mattress. I was going to be with my people. I was going to sleep the same way that they were. I wasn't going to be above them. I cooked for them every day. And my back got so bad. And this bloody mattress, it had I could never find it. There's a little hole. So you pump it up at night, and by about 3 a.m, it would be flat on the floor. And after 6 weeks, I remember remembering, for some bizarre reason, in my cupboard behind a load of stuff, was another blow-up mattress with an auto-inflate. I almost burst into tears when I found this thing, and I got my first proper night's sleep with with a mattress that didn't go down. But no, it was amazing. It really was like being on an 18th century warship for 2 months.
Yeah,
so,
1775 to COVID.
Absolutely, absolutely.
13 British colonies, 1775 U.S., 13 colonies, Lexington, same time Rigby comes about.
Yeah, within 1 year.
Within 1 year, yeah, and literally that's, the rich history. And, for me, Rigby started here with this book.
Yeah, absolutely right.
The original copy, and Harry Selby became truly, for me, an idol. I got to meet him twice, shake his hand. The only thing I didn't have my book with me for him to sign. But, from that point forward, listening to him and having a chance to shoot many Rigbys, 416s most of the time, what a difference the time from, 2013 to now in terms of accuracy, triggers. Accuracy was, to me, the most fit and feel. Those rifles seemed like they took on a new life. And I think it's part of that has to do with your mentor, Paul Roberts. And that's really my next question to you is, how did Paul influence his expertise in long-range rifles and precision rifles, triggers, barrel? He's an amazing guy on barrels, knows it inside and out. Being able to be on safari, how did that affect the new designs and the new, keeping all the same traditional, the look and the feel of Rigby, but then making it modern? Because the new ones outshoot most $3,000 custom rifles.
Yeah, they do shoot. So Paul is, I talked about it before, but he's like a second dad to me. I love that man. And I was a sponge when I joined him and just absorbed everything he said. I can remember the first day I met him, fell head over heels in love with him from the moment. Anyone who spends time with him will know exactly what I'm talking about. And he's been so giving with his knowledge. And I would write things down and just remember these things. And to this day, so I've been now CEO of the company, shareholder of the company for 12 years, but I'll still phone Paul once every 2 weeks because there'll be something I don't know, and Paul will say, well, let me tell you this, and he's been so giving with that. And I felt a great deal of responsibility, if I'm honest, because I think, I can't speak for Paul, but Paul, I don't think ever wanted to sell Rigby's, and then it went to America, and I think Paul felt very sad about that. So when it came back and it was under, I was only 25, I felt like a lot of pressure, self-imposed pressure, that to do right by Paul, and the mentorship that he'd shown me and the trust and the belief he'd had in me, that I wanted to do right by it. And I remember at the beginning there asking Paul questions and just remembering all the things he taught me. The main thing is that Paul said is, make Rigby's. Don't try and reinvent the wheel, just make a Rigby. So we bought pre-war guns, got the design right, but working with Blaser and Mauser, who are just, they're a powerhouse of engineering in Germany, we're able to get the quality that we wanted, with the influence from Paul and that knowledge that he passed forwards.
Yeah, because sometimes that extreme CNC style with a Mauser action causes problems.
Yeah,
That little bit of give is what makes that reliability.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
you know, that's my experience, what I've learned.
But they're designed to work with a bucket of sand in them. You know, it's upside down and all those things, and which leads me on to nicely onto something I wanted to talk to you about, which was June the 28th, the Maharaja of Mayhem. I've remembered it. So I watched your amazing video last night. Look, we have a lot of customers who hunt a lot of buffalo, a lot of other dangerous game, and so we see a lot of videos. But that is extraordinary. I don't know if you want to tell us a little bit about it, and why these guns have to work.
Exactly, and it starts with the fit and finish and how that firearm becomes an extension of your arm. I think when we get in that fight flight, and everything, adrenaline's dumping through the system, if the gun is not an extension of your body, the bad things that happen to your extremities when the blood is getting shut off and it's trying to go to your brain or your legs, is that the tendency is to miss your cheek weld and do different things. That custom 416 of mine, I have 750 rounds through it before that hunt.
Wow.
I've been on a couple of the safari shoots. Pretty good. I can usually bolt and keep everything in a 2 or 3 inch group at 30 yards at 1.5 seconds, pretty quick. And I practice with it. And it's literally what saved my life and saved my cameraman and my PH and my best friend.
Yeah.
The Maharaja Mayhem was a learning lesson for me. And that lesson came at the cost of my best friend getting tossed 9.5 feet straight up in the air by an enraged Cape Buffalo who had already put 18 or 19 people in cars and up in trees. So he had a history of this. And of course, that's part of the great excitement that you get, is to go on those hunts. And I learned that from literally from Rourke and also from Marc Sullivan. When I went on my safari with Marc back in the early 2000s, that passion to have that dangerous adventure opportunity was why I took 3 seconds when the owner of the property said, "This buffalo, it will charge you." And I said, "Let's go." Let's go. And Vanner, my PH from Cheetah Safaris, wonderful man. Unfortunately, he just got out of position, as the video will show. Not his fault, just the buffalo looked like he was going to come around this big camel thorn tree, and he wound up coming, knowing where I was. The PH was here, the cameraman was here, I was here. He could have went either way, and he chose where I was. He knew who.
He was on a beeline for you there.
Eye to eye.
And I don't know if the editing team back in London can put this footage over, because we're going to send that over to them, because while we're talking, I love people to see this in slow motion. It's amazing how that buffalo you shoot. And the other thing I noticed, again, I see so many people handle guns, shoot, without knowing anything about it. I can see you've done a lot of it. You're so calm, the way you drop to a knee, the way you cycle that bolt, you're covering off that buffalo. But the way he then just it's like using a Paul Robertson, like a trout taking a fly. He's so poetic. But the way that thing just turns and he comes straight back for you.
Yeah.
But you must have been terrified.
No, actually, believe it or not, Mark, there really wasn't a fear. The only thought in my mind was, I can't let him get past me. Because my hunting partner, Dominic Lopano, was 20 yards behind me, and he had a 300 Winchester.
Yeah.
Right, and I thought, I can't let him get past me, and I can't let him get to my cameraman, Hinkle Myberg, who filmed that whole thing. He never moved off that.
And he keeps the legend going that the cameraman never dies. I mean, he must have felt that thing run past his leg. I mean, again, I see it in the footage.
And I'll finish my story with him, because it's really funny how he got around that. But when we saw that buffalo, and we already knew he was a pretty crazy buffalo, 7 bulls, they were all moving through thick mulpani. All we could see his legs. And finally there was a little gap, and you see in the film when he comes through and he turns. And my first shots with the 416 with the Woodley 450 grain bullets. So they're sizable, powerful load at 2,500 feet a second. So, I mean, literally momentum. My friend Kevin Roberts said, literally is the reason why I changed those bullets. He said, momentum of that setup is probably the greatest of any African safari caliber. So I thought I was more than enough gun. First shot under the chin, and I said, guys, you got to find the bullet. It went through the chest, and it was in the back end of the intestines. Destroyed the lungs, the top of the heart, all the way through, liver, intestines, all the way through. He turned, and right there, I mean, just from having shot that 416 so much, I bolted, followed, and I had just a perfect shot and right on the shoulder. And I saw the impact, and I knew it was a heart shot. I knew it. And he stumbled a little bit, but it was behind the tree, so you couldn't see him. I literally thought, it's over. He's going to go over there. We're going to hear a death bellow. There's going to be high fives all around.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it. Through the trees, he made that turn, and when he came back, that was the only time for a split second I felt everything tighten up inside right there, right? So the other buffalo just kept going. They just were on their way. He turns around, comes back, and I hear my PH, who was on this side of the tree, yelling, shoot him, shoot him. And he comes around the tree, and I hit, which you can't tell on the third shot, again in the chest, but you see when he entered the film view, the leg went under. So it literally was through here, and that bullet was a solid, and it exited out the back hip. The 416, 450 grain solid, exited all the way through him. And right then and there, when he stumbled, he looked right up and looked right in my eye. There was absolutely no doubt he was looking right at me. And at that point, I knew on the third shot, I would not have time. If I had my double, I could have easily just moved up for the second. I could have reloaded, went for the second shot. I knew I wouldn't have time. I would barely have time to close and chamber. And that's literally what happened. When he came around, I literally closed the chamber. And I remember not having to aim. I just moved the barrel up until he moved into, his brain moved into the barrel. As you saw, it's 2 inches away.
Yeah.
The gun goes off, and I'm literally expecting to, I started moving out of the way, because I remember every story I read, they lose the gun. No, I kept my gun, and I dove to the side, and I figured he'd skid past me. Shot right, literally 1 inch under the brain, it exited out, and he went right by me, went right by the cameraman, went right by Vanner, and in line was my buddy. And Dominic looked back, he saw the buffalo coming, and he just said, I started running. He said he saw the branches, or the roots of a tree, and then all of a sudden the roots of the tree were upside down. And the buffalo hit him like this, and just turned his head once, and he went 8 foot up in the air. As he landed, the buffalo moved out, the PH, Vanner got a shot at him, and he went 19 yards and died. No death bell or anything, just gone. And one of the craziest things that happened at that point was, and it still gives me goosebumps, the tracker, amazing. The tracker, 3 years to the day, his PH was killed by a buffer. Our tracker on that hunt, and that guy ran into my buddy, Dominic, and grabbed him under the armpits, and my buddy finally woke up. He looked up into the tracker's face, and tears are coming down the tracker's face, hitting his face. And he says, Mr. Dominic, we gotta go. And he pulls him backwards out of harm's way while I'm getting the rest of the 4 rounds in there, and now I'm covering because the other buffalo came back around, the dead one. And he pulled him to save him. And I just thought, man, that guy deserves a medal. To be able to experience all of that, internalize that, that's how strong those guys are. I mean, they're so unique individuals. So anyway, all 4 shots hit. First shot through the middle, all the way through. Second one through the heart. I have pictures of the heart, the bullets right through it. Dead center in the heart. Third one in here, exited, and the fourth one under the brain. All hits, and then the 470 on the back liver. When the cameraman, Henkel Myberg, my friend, he's been with me on 8 safaris, when he was filming and he saw that the buffalo wasn't stopping on the third shot, he dropped the camera down here and he just followed the camera, because he just wanted to keep his eyes open, and he followed the buffalo around. So when the camera goes black, it's because his camera got covered by blood. It was 2 inches away from his camera. And he turned and he caught him getting caught. And the only thing he said was, I'm invisible, I'm invisible, I'm invisible.
It's the cameraman. It's the cameraman never dies. Never.
He said, I'm invisible. And he said, when he passed, he said, I'm invisible.
That's amazing. That's amazing. No,
just a great, a violent adventure. I wouldn't want to happen again. I remember talking to Marc about this, and I learned a lot from Marc. I mean, one of the things you said was, if you're not comfortable with your gun, don't bring it.
Yeah.
Second thing he said was, wait till it's close.
Yeah.
Right, and this whole Marc Sullivan thing, wait till it's close. You know, make sure you save some rounds. But the thing that I remember was, if I had my double, I could have had this. I would have been aiming on that last shot. It would have been a different situation rather than bolting. And I remember thinking, Buzz, the same thing. It's time to switch.
Absolutely. And we were hunting with Buzz last year, and I was with my buddy Dave, and we had a really nasty charge sort of situation where this thing was 9 yards. This is elephant.
Elephant, yeah.
And You know, luckily we all three of us there were double rifles, but you know, I've had a couple of run-ins like that where if I hadn't had a double, and I'm not, you know, not saying there's anything wrong with a bolt rifle. They're a phenomenal weapon, particularly with that first precise shot, the quick follow-up shots. You know, you want to be precise, particularly with the animal going away. But like when it's coming in through thick cover, having that quick second shot,
there's nothing like it.
Nothing like it. Absolutely. And so I think it was Paul said to me once, you know, you feel so much safer when you got that old 2-pipe in your hands, the weight of that double. And he also said you never feel more alive than when you're following up dangerous game. You know, you feel every hair on your body, you feel really alive. And I think that's probably why we do it. But yeah, no, it's, you know, having a double, having that quick second shots and being able to back up is, yeah, it's a must. And I often say to customers, if you can justify it, take the 416 and take a double. Because, you know, you put in the shot, buffaloes run off, it's not a problem, just switch over guns, you pick up the double for that last little follow in, or, you know, it's a completely different weapon for a completely different scenario.
Yeah, and it's so much more traditional.
Yes.
It's so much more classic Africa. Having a double in your hands, there's nothing like that feeling. Having the safety mechanism, and I grew up shooting a double shotgun, a Purdy shotgun from a kid. To me, it's just like, it's an extension of my eye.
Yeah.
And during the times of stress,
Yeah.
that makes a difference. How that firearm, how that double fits you, what you guys do so well, and the custom and the stock, and that's what makes the difference on those, when the adrenaline's pumping and there's dangerous situations, and that's what literally was my turning point. And then I went with Buzz finally after, you know, 20 years of knowing him, talking to him at every show. We got to go during COVID to Zim and the Kazuma. And what an experience that was.
Another amazing video which I was watching there, and I think it was 8 yards, that ball, as he came through, and I knew immediately, and I was saying this before, I knew immediately through very embarrassing experience that you doubled on purpose that rifle, because he was so close, you pulled both triggers at the same time. And the reason I knew that sound was from the very early days working for Paul. He took me to the range the first time I was a teenager, and he started teaching me things, and he said, when you shoot a new double for the first time, you have no experience of that gun, put a single cartridge in, shoot it, then put the empty back in there with another live, and then if they both eject, you know that it double discharged. So, you know, you can work out if there's a, you know, a light trigger or light tumbler or whatever it may be on there. So I'm a teenager. I think, what the hell do you know? You've only been doing it for 50 years, you know. The next time we're down there, I was with a guy called John, who's a client of ours, who had a 375 Chapuis double with a scope on it, one of these Gerhard Nichols scopes, really nice scope. Paul was shooting clays on the other side of the shooting grounds, like 500 yards away. So I get the rifle out, you know, Paul Roberts' apprentice, I know what I'm doing, load the rifle, 2 shots, what does Paul know? Put that rifle up, pow, fire, both barrels go off, and it hits me so hard that the scope comes back and it breaks through the rubber of the scope, and it cuts me here.
Yeah.
But it hits me so hard, and I'm such a novice, I'm trying to pull the second, and I don't want to look stupid in front of John, so I'm trying to pull the second trigger.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he said, "Are you okay? What happened?" So, you know, so I open the gun, the cartridges eject, I don't realize what's happened. I put 2 more in there, put it up, and did it a second time straight afterwards.
Pulled again.
And it hit me even harder the second time. My phone's now going ballistic in my pocket. It's Paul, and he says, "What the hell's going on over there? I've heard not 2 double discharges," and you could hear that from 500 yards away, that hollow boom, they both go off. So yeah, I've now confessed on camera my baptism of fire, and I can tell you, doing that twice in a row, you won't do it again.
Yeah. And I actually practice that because I'm a big Stan Senegren fan, and I remember Stan saying, hey, if there's only one elephant and you have the opportunity, they cannot stand 2 500-grain bullets, and they're going down. Even if you miss a little bit, that energy is the difference. And so literally, when that elephant came, and I don't know if you could hear Buzz going, okay.
As he's getting closer, and even I'm like, shoot, man.
He basically said, and then in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, Mark Sullivan, wait till it's 10 yards. 10 yards is the magic number. And I'm waiting, and finally I said, at 10 yards, and he lifted all the way up, and he said, I said, okay, and he goes, okay. and it went down. But you know, the feeling of that event, being around a guy who I have so much respect for.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think there's anybody in the business that has as much knowledge, has as much experience, been charged this much, and still hasn't really seriously hurt, thank God, is as Buzz Carlton. And I have a world of respect for him. His team, you've got to experience his. I've been around a lot of
Yeah, Crichton, Yati, Eddie.
and
Yeah.
the whole team, from Eddie to Yati, they're just the best.
Yeah.
And I could not believe we'd go into a herd and the bull would go in and he was chasing the ladies, as Buzz would say, and they'd get mixed up and there's tracks everywhere and there was rain and mud and we were literally walking through sometimes foot deep of mud, and they would skirt around. You saw this happen. They walk in, the bull goes here, the cow's here, he skirts around and then off we go.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just amazing how that was.
Amazing.
It was worth the price of admission, to have that experience and then to have the charge. And literally Buzz looked at me and he goes, if I did that myself, that's the way I'd want to do it, And
He's so calm and cool and just, I think he's one of the coolest people in the whole hunting industry. And I met him, so I watched his videos. I think I talked about this in the podcast we did with him. I watched his video hunting the African elephant and just being like totally in awe of this guy. And I remember meeting him the first time of the show as, I was here with Paul, and it was like a massive hero worship. I still have now. I mean, he's one of my really good friends, and I still think he's as cool as hell. And what's so lovely about Buzz is he's been there, he's done it more than most. He's just so humble. He's to the point where he's almost too humble. He can't see his own charm and experience and greatness. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, and I've always felt safe hunting with him. We've been in some proper sketch situations, but you feel safe, and he's always, right, reload, safety on, come here. He's a pro.
And the thing with Buzz is that he shares that knowledge with everyone. His videos, there's no videos like his. If anybody, I cannot recommend Buzz Carlton's videos on hunting the African elephant, because it dissects shot after shot after shot. Here's the shot, freeze frame, here's the bullet impact. That's literally what taught me when that elephant was he said it was the worst angle. It's up, he's looking up, he's 9 yards, low in the tusk, way low in the trunk to be able to get to the brain. If I didn't have that experience and knowledge, I wouldn't have known that.
No.
And it would have been, who knows, it could have been a mess. But he shares that knowledge, and what he does for conservation, I just wish that half of the safari outfitters would put the effort like he has in Dapu and all of the things that are going on. And it's one of the things I sponsor, I love to do, and because he does so much for conservation.
Absolutely, he's huge, and he's a big part of our Dagger Boy Award as well, which is something that's really taken off in the last couple of years.
Yeah, congratulations, and I saw the winner.
No,
I was a pretty happy gent.
Yeah, I mean, when you do these things, and you said at the beginning, we're very passionate about conservation, but actual conservation. Let's try and change the culture of this thing. And I've tried to use my platform, there's a sort of very modern term, but platform here at Rigby, to try and affect some really positive change with the kinds of buffalo we should be hunting. And to see that gentleman come by this morning and say, yeah, if you won't mind me saying, he had sort of tears in his eyes. I had tears in my eyes.
Literally. Yeah. I was watching you guys. I even took a picture. I thought, that's absolutely that's the story of Rigby. You saw it in his eyes. When he held that rifle, it's like holding a Corbett rifle, man.
Yeah.
So it's a new one, but it's a John Rigby, and you've done an amazing job with the tradition to pull that back in, still making it modern, still having the advantages. Because I tell people all the time, you can't believe how accurate those rifles are.
No,
they're pretty. I mean, it's pretty stellar. I'm a accuracy guy. I've been building custom rifles for 30 years, and accuracy is, if it doesn't shoot 3/4 of an inch, I'm not happy with it at all. I'll sell it. And the last 12 years, the rifles that I've shot for people, a lot of people have me sight their rifles. Like, oh, I just have you come out there. I've shot everything, 600, 577s. I just love that whole thing. And your rifles, especially the bolt actions and the stalkers and stuff, have been top notch.
No, thank you so much. Well, you're the only person who's come onto the podcast so far with a list of questions from me, the host. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to cover off before.
Well, there was a couple. So, yeah, I do have one more.
Okay.
And I wonder about it honestly. I have some experience on monolithic bullets. I've been using monolithic bullets I did the first custom 33/78s with my partner Jim Schmidt at Arizona Ammunition back in the 90s. Before Weatherby even knew the 33/78 was going to be around. So shooting 150 and 168 grain bullets at 4,000 feet a second. Oh. My goal was to have a point blank 500-yard mule deer and elk rifle. And I accomplished that. It's an 8-pound rifle with a 27.5-inch barrel. but it has a left-handed twist. It's got a Liljer barrel. It's very customized. Took 4 years of efforts to get to it. So I'm really, big on those, that process. My question to you is, with lead shot going away, ammunition for rifles and shotguns, how is that going to affect what you do and those rifles and moving forward?
It's a great question, and it's something that Paul raised in our podcast together. And I think in the end, because I sort of looked at him to say, come on, Paul, give me the answer. And he tapped me like he said, I'm sure you'll work it out.
Some things, master.
Absolutely. So one thing I know for sure, do not shoot monolithic solids through old guns. Do not do it. Exactly. I've seen guns go from, a sort of beautiful 600 Jeffrey with all the rifling on the outside, that's bad enough, through to full barrel split. I would go nowhere near that. In terms of the technology, the modern proof should handle the monolithic solids. My advice would be to reach out to us direct if you're looking on doing something like that, so my guys in London can advise. The most important thing, whatever bullet you are shooting, is that there's decent amount of pressure bands in there to get the pressure away, because you can't stick something that's that hard up something that's frankly immovable, the barrel, because you're going to have problems.
Very familiar with that.
Yeah, and I do think with lead, I think we're going to have some leeway on lead. I don't think Africa's going to ban lead bullets anytime soon. In the UK, they're banning lead shot for shotguns, but we'll still be able to use lead for proofing our barrels, for testing and those sorts of things, as long as we can contain it in the range. There's certain rules that are coming in for that. But I do think anytime we look through human history and there's been changes, those changes come through new legislation. If we look at the 450 Rigby, that was 1898, everyone wanted one of those, or a 500 450 Holland, or whatever it may be. Then the British government bans 45 caliber bullets, so all of a sudden everyone's got to make a 470 or a 465 or whatever it may be. So I'm confident that the very clever bullet makers and ammunition makers out there will come up with something that we can shoot in those older guns in the coming years.
Yeah. Tell me, I know, because I'm interested, my next double will be a Shikari. Having met the man, Jerome, I'm so excited.
The Jedi Master. Ronaldo, we call him. He just puts the ball in the back of the net.
Oh my goodness. And just talking to him, I learned so much already. So I am going to come to London when I get mine. I'm going to get it fit the right way. I'm going to go through. I'm only going to have one of them, so it's going to be done right. How has that been perceived in the market? Obviously, there's a 2-year wait. Give me a little bit more on that one. And I'm part of Double Rifle Society. We have a very passionate group on our blog of, about 3,000 members that are super diehards. I mean, pretty much the major names in our business are part of our group, and they're contributing. Tell me about that, because I really think that's for a lot of people, that's the step up. They can go from a mid-price, the Heims and the Kreekoffs, to go one more step up to a John Rigby.
The truth is, we're having sleepless nights. I'm having sleepless nights as the CEO, because we have massively underestimated the market. So we turn up with this Shikari, we've got it here in the white, and we had it at the back of the tent here, and it was kind of like, hey, do you want to come and see something secret? Which, by the way, for anyone who's been to Safari Club or just in the gun trade, hunting trade, means that everybody knows about it within 5 minutes. So it went from like 1 or 2 of our mates within the industry coming, having a look, and maybe pre-ordering one, to there being a queue of people the next day saying, hey, I heard from Jacob, and I think Jacob and his buddies took 5 of them from us, and it was amazing. So I think we have uncovered, we were confident there was a market there. We just underestimated how massive that market is. I think Heim have done a brilliant job in recent years with their 8.9B and some of their double rifles, which are beautiful and very British-esque in their appearance. But there are people out there who want to own a double, with Rigby on it, a British name. That's not to take anything whatsoever away from Heim. I've hunted with their rifles a lot. I think that the guys there are great. And the price point that we had, I think, was right. We came in at about 35,000, and the price in the last couple of years has now jumped up to 45 with inflation, all the other things we're all suffering with. But just to keep up with the market demand, because we are selling way more than we can possibly make. So we've got plans with our new building to be able to expand production there, and if it makes you feel any better, I've got one on order myself. But Jerome keeps putting it back because he keeps selling my place. So I think I'll get mine some point in the 2030s, I think, at this rate.
Is the timing still 2 years?
No, so we're quoting now 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah. Now, some of our dealers pre-ordered batches, so we're able to sell those, but at the moment we're quoting 4 years.
There is some dealer stock on that.
There is 1 or 2 left, but we've sold 10 at the show here.
That's wonderful.
This is amazing.
That's
yeah.
absolutely wonderful.
And I think it's great that people still want to carry a double in Africa.
And growing.
Yeah.
I mean, the Double Rifle Society, just more people say, and then they want entry levels. And I have a lot of experiences with Disabodies, and I have experiences with the Merkels, and then the mid. I've shot and owned Kreekoff and Heinz. I've had the mid tiers, but none of them. The way that I just closed that after that 500 of Jerome's, which you said has been the show that's basically goes on all the.
Yeah, it's the prototype.
Yeah. It closed at 4,000 rounds like a brand new gun.
Yeah, no, it feels exactly.
I've never. You could literally just ease it close, and it closed like a safe on a bank.
Yeah.
And I said, that's why you buy Rigby, and that's why you buy Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's definitely, and it looks right. As Paul would say, it looks like a Rigby. And when Jerome came to the dark side of Rigby's, and he was just, we need to get him on this podcast. Actually, Jerome is just such a legend. And the first thing I sat down with him was to say, we need to make, with all your double rifle experience, Jerome, we need to make a box lock, just like those pre-war guns that, that made the company so famous.
But it has the strength of a side lock because it's all one piece across.
Yeah, so we changed the bottom, and that's made a huge difference on that thing.
Oh man, I would imagine you'd probably do 10,000 rounds.
I think so. I think the tube, the bore will wear out long before anything else.
Before the action.
Yeah, I think so.
And what would you say moderately loaded? Some engraving. The baseline is 45. Where do you think it would be at 55 to 60,000?
The sky's the limit.
The
But I think it's a real hunter's rifle. I wouldn't pour loads of engraving on that.
No, I agree.
My personal thing. I just get a really nice piece of wood. That'd be my advice for anyone at home listening to this, whether it's a Rigby bolt rifle, a Rigby double rifle, whatever it is that you're buying. Never go cheap on the wood. You'll never ever regret getting the sexy piece of wood.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So much of Africa is walking around, looking at the gun, when you're like, what a beautiful stick of wood I got on there.
Red dots last. Sorry, I had one more question. Red dots on the doubles. What's your thoughts?
So I describe myself as a bit of a purist. I quite like shooting over iron sights, but I'm also 37 and I've got 20/20 vision. We've got a lot of customers who a little bit older.
Probably the majority.
And I think, as my dad always used to say to me, do what gives you pleasure. Shoot what gives you pleasure. If you are struggling and you need a red dot, or you feel that it will improve your shooting, or you'll get more pleasure from your hunting, put it on there and don't give a damn what anyone else says. We can put red dots on there which are very discreet. When you take it off, you would never know that there's been a red dot on that rifle.
That was my next question.
We can absolutely do that.
The mount?
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't worry about what anyone else thinks. Do what makes you happy. That's, if you're in a position where you can spend 45,000 pounds on a rifle and go on a $50,000 hunt, to hell what anyone else thinks. You do what makes you happy.
Yeah, and that's literally what's happening right now. There's a growing market. Trijicon just came out with the new HD RMR. It's even bigger. It's basically, literally big field of view, and it's really, really, I think it's going to revolutionize some of the ones that are doing it.
I think so, and there's no doubt about it. People tend to shoot better with the red dot, but there's also something, for the purists.
Oh no, I totally agree.
As well. No. Anyway.
Thank you very much. It was a great time.
No, it's been an honor to have you here with us today, and we're going to get back to selling a few more guns here. It's been a feeding frenzy on the booth.
Oh, I love it, man. Just the people coming through that's wonderful.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Good luck with everything.
No, thank you.